welcome to the Golden Hour. I am Goldyn Duffy. I am your host, and I have got an incredible guest today that I am super excited about. He's got a pretty big bio, but I feel really pumped about sharing everything this man is doing and how much energy he's going to give to you today. And the advice that comes forth today is one that you want to really pay attention to, because we're here in this life experience to experience life, to actually play the game of life to the fullest capacity. And that's exactly what he's doing. So today I have Coach Luke with me. His story is one of incredible transformation. He achieved remarkable success in his professional life, building multiple six-figure businesses. However, despite outward success, he realized that true happiness was eluding him. This realization prompted him to make a bold decision and follow his long-held passion for sports before he turned 40. With unwavering determination and boundless enthusiasm, Coach Luke embarked on a journey to become a professional athlete. He pushed his physical and mental limits, facing challenges and setbacks along the way, but never giving up. Through hard work, perseverance, and a deep commitment to his dream, he achieved his goal and became a professional athlete. Coach Luke's journey didn't end there. He recognized that his passion, drive, and knowledge could be harnessed to make a positive impact on the lives of others. Drawing from his own experiences and challenges faced during his athletic pursuit, he decided to use his unique blend of athleticism, entrepreneurship, and coaching expertise to help individuals better themselves both personally and professionally. Coach Luke founded his coaching company and developed programs that empower individuals to unlock their full potential, overcome obstacles, and achieve their goals. Through his coaching, he has helped numerous clients elevate their performance, boost their confidence, and achieve breakthrough results in various aspects of their lives. Now, as a devoted husband and a loving father to 3 boys and 1 girl, Coach Luke understands the importance of family and relationships in one's overall well-being. He incorporates principles of work-life balance, effective communication, and leadership into his coaching, recognizing the holistic nature of personal and professional development. Holy cow, you guys, you're in for a treat. All right. Welcome, Coach Luke.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you here. And, just looking at the determination you have and feeling the energy that you put forth all the time, I just feel like you're the perfect person to have on the show where people are influenced by what we say, getting our messages out in a bigger way. So we're talking. I wanted you to just share a little bit of the highlights of your story and what has made you what you are today. So, like, what are some of the key components that you have learned over time, over experiencing life, kind of being like, where did you start with all of this? Like, where's the adversity that led to who Coach Luke is today? Can you get a little vulnerable with us and
Oh,
share?
I was born inside of a small town.
Okay.
It was slightly a impoverished area, and I'm not speaking poorly about it. I just lived there my whole life. And so growing up, I didn't have access to the ideas and the things that were really out there. Although I had heard a Tony Robbins CD one time, and I was like, I want to be one of those guys that goes on stage and talks. And so inside of within my journey as I was growing up, I found a personal development company that I actually went to by accident. One of my friends was like, "Show up here," and I was like, "Oh, okay." I had a gallon of water and a cut off shirt. They were like all in suits and ties, and I ended up spending quite some time. I still do associate with a lot of really close friends from that company, actually, and that kind of set my journey in the personal development space. Although I had been running my own business for 12 years, I had been running my own business in the restoration, carpet cleaning, janitorial, uh,
Okay.
that type of space. So we'd go in and do work for people, and I was incorporating what I had learned to serve myself, and then I would go out and sometimes help people out. And we took over a boys and girls club, things like that. Um, and that's kind of where the journey started. And then it really, really started spiraling into like what was the difference between what I was doing and what I was called to do.
Ah,
So my resistance, the resistance that was being built up from me not being satisfied inside. We had money, we had cars, we had houses, we had the business, and yet I found myself overweight. And when I say overweight, I actually had lost. I was overweight, lost weight, did a bodybuilding show, and then gained all my weight back.
right.
And so I was literally sitting there like, one day, like I gotta have to do something. And it all came down to my, like, I did like what I like to call a self audit. There's a difference between negative self talk and an accurate assessment of who I was. And
Love
my
that.
assessment of who I
Yep.
was not a positive thing. And it all spawned down to I had been reading a book at the time, which I had never read a book. So it was an audioable.
Yep.
And it was talking about setting your alarm clock and keeping your word. And I was like, I started my business so I didn't have to keep my word. That's literally what I did.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to get up at 4:30 every morning. We get up at 4:30 every morning. I'd never done it. I didn't know what 4:30 looked like. I stayed up till 4:30. That wasn't a problem, but I was not. Although I wasn't like I was not keeping my word in regards to getting up. I said I would get up and I wouldn't. And then that practice. And the funny thing about like changing and shifting a direction in your life, you think that the universe is going to respond right away and start giving you all the things you want.
Yeah.
I found
Yep.
that it's like, sure, we'll see. I like to
Yep.
tell my clients that we'll
Yep.
see. Oh, you say you want to be a great dad? We'll see. You say
Yep.
you want a new business? We'll see. So that's kind of where it went. It started exterior, outward focused, and the inward focus became me using what I had learned to become something else.
Yeah.
And in that process, I found a lot of things that I was teaching was BS.
Yes.
I like it sounds good from the book,
Yep.
sounds good from the stage. It is not applicable in real life when tensions and pressures start to mount. It is not something that it doesn't yield results. So
Yeah.
I was able to experience that and practice that in my own space before I then went out to do what I do now.
That's amazing because it's experiential and it's true. Like a lot of people will go to these seminars and they get all excited and then they come home and they don't apply anything that they learned. And I think it's taking a step back and saying, all right, well, what happens when, something happens in your life and it throws you off your schedule or, it gets hard. When it gets challenging, what happens? Do you just shrink back and become your old identity? Or do you rise up and say, no, I committed to this. This is who I am now.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I agree with all that. Sometimes rising up, I would say, spawn off of that. Sometimes rising up to say who I am now is not the person you necessarily need to be to get to the next level. So,
Yeah.
like, you find that person on the path. So, like, the person I thought I needed to be was trash compared to the person I became to get where I am. And to put that into perspective, like 2 weeks into my I'm getting up, I
Yeah.
believe that it was about 3 days into that 2 weeks, my brain and body was like, go back to the old you, bro. This is not. And
Yeah.
so then I started finding little tools to trick me out of bed because I hadn't developed the personal self discipline to do it.
Yeah.
Also, I don't like relying on what's called accountability partners
Yeah.
because and we will go into that maybe later. So what I did is I seen these guys boxing downstairs and I was like, look at these goofballs. Immediately I was like, you must have energy towards it. So I went down and I paid the coach like a month or two in advance and said, I need to be here at 4:30 every single morning. If not, I went out and I drank and I threw my goals away. It
Yeah.
turned out he was an AA guy who was like he understood that space. Guess that night, I'm not joking. I ended up working till 2 in the morning on an emergency call, and I showed up with less than an hour's worth of sleep. And
Oh,
he thought that I was drunk, and for the first because I couldn't move until he realized I was like, "Bro, I haven't slept." And everything in me was like, "You earned this. Stay in bed." And that
yeah.
was like a real track. 2 weeks after that, I was like, "I'm gonna become a professional boxer." They were
Wow.
like, everyone's like, "Bro, you're like 100 pounds overweight. You're a professional eater. Like, you're not gonna be a professional, but like, you're 36 and a half years old." I
Yeah.
throw the half in there because it mattered. They're like, "These guys retire 2 years before you said you're gonna start." And we
You start.
fast forward to last October, I had my pro debut, and my whole life changed because I decided to go after. I said I'm going to become a professional boxer, and I'm going to use that platform to become the greatest instructor and coach on the planet. And everyone laughed. And where I went in 8 months is like Elon when he launched his rocket. Like
Right. Oh my gosh, I love that. And it's like doing the impossible, right? It's doing what most people would say, oh, you can't do that. And instead of taking all the reasons of why you can't do it, it's like, well, how can I do it? And I absolutely am going to do it. And it's making that solid decision to do something that's going to expand and grow your life. That is so amazing.
Yeah, I love it. It was
Yeah.
fun. And then when we talked, I really had a very big connection with you because it sounds like you and your listeners kind of feed off of like the unexpected, the next, like what tool can I use? So, I felt a real good click right
Yeah.
there because sometimes there's people that they say they want to do it, and saying you want to and being willing to sacrifice everything are two different, completely different things.
Completely. And I just want to touch back on that, like having integrity with your word, because people will make promises and they'll keep their promises to other people, but as far as like keeping their promise to themselves, like because we have to override our mind, right? You said like 3 days in, your body's just like, your mind's like, dude, don't even do this. This is crazy. And so we have to override that energetic connection to our old identity to become someone new, and we might have to do it 100 times. I mean, I'm sure I know you do like 8 miles a day, which I
Yeah.
actually think that you're going to motivate me today, which I'm
Thank
really
you.
excited about. But I know
Me.
you do 8 miles a day, and I know there's resistance going into that 8 miles. Am I right?
Yeah. So back to what I'll circle back to with what you said about integrity.
Yeah.
I was training for a men's personal development company down in Orange County. Really great guys, and that specific topic came up, and I was very, very, very clear when I say integrity is not the promises you make out loud. It's the silent promise that you keep to yourself, and no
Yep.
one knows you made it.
Yep.
So when I say I'm going to do something in my head, integrity is doing it and seeing it through no matter what happens. Self discipline comes in when you still push through, even though the emotional state you made the promise in has left.
On.
You push through it. How many times have we said we're going to go to the gym? And I love using the gym as an example because
Yeah.
I was the guy who would, I'm going to go to the gym today. And
Yeah.
I would go to the gym and do nothing. And so
Yeah.
when you said hundreds of times, I like people to wrap their mind around it's not hundreds, it's thousands.
Yeah.
And we talk about running, I'm not built to run. I'm not a runner. When I started boxing, I had never thrown a punch in my life. At
Wow.
36 and a half, I had never thrown a punch in my life. I was out of shape. I didn't even know boxing and steps and all that. Side note is I have a knee on my left knee. There's no ACL, PCL, or meniscus. So it needs a full rebuild. And I started knowing that. I
Wow.
intentionally said I would never run because I had knee and really I was just overweight and lazy. So
Right.
like I start running my 8 miles now, and there's people out there who will tell you, oh, well, that's a habit. And for some people, it may become a habit. For me, it's not. I hate it every day. I
Yeah.
lace my shoes up.
Yeah.
I go through this in my mind. I'm like, you said you were going to do it. And then I'm like, my wife, she loves me. She'll let me off. She'll
Yeah.
say, oh, I'll take a rest.
Oh
And I'm
yeah.
like, what about all the people that are like relying on you because you're coaching them? And the other voice in my head's like, forget those people, Luke. Like, this is about you right now. And I
Yeah.
go through a battle and I'll literally time myself from 1 to 7 minutes is how long it takes to get me out the door sometimes.
Wow.
And not every day like that, but I'll say 8 out of 10 days are like that.
Yeah. And that's what people need to realize, that that's completely normal. And if you continue to let your mind be in charge, then you're gonna falter. And
100.
it's true. Habits do help. Like I used to go to the gym 6 days a week. I was doing like HIIT training, like super intense, high intensity training every single day. And I felt like I was in a lot of, really good shape. And then I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm burning out. Like I did that for 3 years and I'm like, okay, I'm literally burning out. Like I don't want to go anymore, to the point where there's no joy left in it for me. And it doesn't mean everything has to have joy, but I do think we need to have a level of excitement and passion when we're doing things. So like recently, my gym schedule has been like maybe 3 days a week. So that's why I'm like, I need to talk to Coach Luke today, because
Oh, yeah.
I need to get back on my working out horse and like not have this, okay, I'm not gonna go. And I don't do it in the morning. It's usually the night before I'll say, because if I do it in the morning, I know it's my mind. But the night before, I'll just make that decision and I'll go, oh, you can take the day off tomorrow. Like you did a big arm workout today. You can take tomorrow off. And that has slowly kind of slid me into this like sometimes I don't go a lot and it doesn't feel good. Like it doesn't feel good to me to be this person who's like not being consistent. Consistency. Let's talk about consistency.
I'll talk about in regards to consistency. Consistency is kind of a skill. It's
Yeah.
not necessary. So people who are skilled in consistent behavior that serves them often will delay gratification. So what happens is when I make an emotional decision to go to the gym, and actually, which is funny, the metrics in regards to how many gym memberships are sold from the December to
Yeah.
February is
Yeah.
like makes up 70% of the total gym memberships sold in those spaces. And then when the emotion is gone, then people, they don't go buy gym memberships. That's why they're normally 1 year contracts. So what happens is consistency. When we go back to the idea of consistency is created by having and developing a habit and doing what you said you're going to do.
Yes.
Not go, so like when I talk to my guys about going to the gym, I don't they don't make a goal of what they're going to do at the gym. They don't make a goal of X. When we're just getting started, their goal is this: drive to the gym, get out, check in. You have the permission to get back in your car after you check in and leave. And I've had one person leave one time, and you know what he did? He
What?
went that evening because it ate him alive that he walked into a gym to say, "Oh, I'm going to show Coach Luke," and it ate him alive inside. And so then, because as we start to advance, right, the consistency is tested with um, with pressure.
Yeah.
Outside pressures will test it. How consistent are you? If we're going for a walk with the kids and there's butterflies, that's pretty consistent. If it's raining now and there's some snow and lightning and like, are you still going to do your run? Now there's a quite the intensity outside. Am I going to keep it? So
Yep.
the intensity will test our consistency every single time. And that's
Interesting.
and my thing is like for men, and I can speak from a man's space, when we are like physically uncomfortable doing something that is like we didn't know we can do, we are mentally comfortable to a space where we are next level.
Really?
When we are in a space of physical comfort, laying in back, feet are up, I will guarantee you, every single man, when they get honest, is like, I could be doing more and I'm not. And so
Wow.
there's a space of mental discomfort. And the thing is comfort and discomfort, the idea of comfort, which to me doesn't exist. Those two spaces are always going to be a balance. There's always going to be one space where you're not going to be comfortable. So why not feel like you're owning the world when you're doing it? So
I
that's
totally agree. I love that. There's no such thing as a comfort zone because you're not really comfortable.
the idea that a comfort zone exists is a sales tactic that a lot of people will use to run your credit card because it's an emotional space.
Yeah.
Even right now, we're sitting here and someone's listening to this. One of your listeners like shifts in their chair because they're a little bit uncomfortable. So there was never comfort. In the moment that they created comfort, discomfort jumped in. So I'm big on mastering discomfort.
I love that.
You're going to be uncomfortable the rest of your life. So how about we practice reacting inside that space so we don't lash out at our wife, so we don't get upset about the socks being done or
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
took the trash out, like those type of spaces are like, and I'll teach a whole different space on that. We won't get into that.
You're teaching
although
that next time.
although what I'm saying is inside of the space of discomfort there's levels, and the more you play with it, the less the like I think we just got audited today or something. My wife was like, oh, like literally walked into an audit. And I'm like, old me would have been freaking out.
Yeah.
New me's like, well, put that in another paper. I'll go make more money. Here we
Yeah.
go.
Yep. So it's like getting used to discomfort and kind of embracing it and then asking yourself, like, what can I do about it? How can I rise up to it?
Yeah. Just
Love that.
I'm big on fighting, obviously. So like a lot of things are going to take a certain level of fighting back. Like there's a lot of turn the other cheek out there, which I'm not big on.
Yeah.
I'm not big on that one. I'm more big on like there's people who might be called for it. I'm not. Like I'm more like teach them not to mess with the next person type
Yeah.
idea. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just when it comes to discomfort with inside of like The alcohol, right? Alcohol
Yeah.
was a very what's more uncomfortable, wanting to go out and have a drink, which I'm not against alcohol, I'm against alcohol every other day,
Yeah.
or the discomfort of, man, I said I wasn't gonna drink on a Wednesday. I woke up hungover. Ugh. Like there's discomfort either way. I would
Yeah.
choose what's gonna prolong my life and ability and make me more efficient.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's like, again, it's that keeping that word to yourself and having the integrity that actually shows you can trust yourself, you know?
Yes. You know
And
that oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, you
I
go
was
ahead.
the funny thing about keeping yeah, so the funny thing about keeping your word to yourself is not only does no one know you did it, nobody cares.
Right.
Whoa, what? What do you mean, Luke? What, like you made a commitment to go be a good dad and take your son on a walk or a run to the park.
Yep.
Nobody cares that you kept that.
Yep.
No, everyone knows when you broke it, whether they know it or not. They know, hey, this guy doesn't do it. But no one cares when you keep it. When I make an out loud commitment, I'm going to be on that call, and I show up. I think everybody cares. It's virtue signaling. No one really cares. So once I get past myself in regards to like these are just expectations. Keeping my word is an expectation. It's a human expectation.
Yeah.
Once I
No.
start writing down human expectations, take a shower, wash my clothes, take my trash out, make my own dinner, like all the things I would do if my wife wasn't there, right? Those are
Yeah.
expectations. Be a good dad. Like, oh man, you're a good dad today. What are you talking about? Like, get off the, get rid of all that stuff. And then now you have a baseline to start becoming better off of that. Does that make sense?
That's so good, and it makes a lot of sense, and it makes me think of certain people and makes me think of dads in general who, will go out and they make the money and say the mom is a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. And, the idea that just going out and making the money makes you a good dad. Can you talk to that a little bit? Because I know a lot of dads
So
feel, oh, well, I did my hard work today and,
I
now I should
love,
be able to go and drink a beer and my wife should wait on me hand and foot, I
I
think
love
that still happens.
I love dads like that. So, like, look, like in working out, right? A lot of people go to the gym. You have an expectation physically daily just to survive.
Yeah.
You notice it's 2,000 calories on the watch. There's an expectation. I go down this path with men when I coach them. I'm like, okay, pretend your wife isn't there, whatever your guys' agreements are. Set that to the side. Would you take the trash out? Would you do the laundry? Would you vacuum? Would you clean? Would you do the dishes? Would you go to work? Would you make money? Would you make extra money? There's your baseline.
Yeah.
Throw it out. Throw it
Yeah.
out. That's your expectation as a grown man from the beginning. Now, I believe that you should always be moving forward and working. So, what is the bare minimum that you're doing to better yourself? Because there, we're not patting you on the back there either. Like, we're not. So,
No.
now here is your zero. Here's your
Yeah.
baseline. This is your foundation. What are you going to do now where you're going to start building your legacy? Your legacy comes out the foundation, not what's expected of you. Or, and with a lot of men, I call them plaguecies, right? They're becoming more of a plague on the people around them because they're drawing all the energy in and creating negative. It drives me so crazy. So, yes, the baseline is your physical expectation. I don't applaud you for taking a shower.
Yeah.
I expect it. Now,
Yes.
I'm not going to applaud you for going and making money for your family. You don't deserve a beer. In fact, to say you deserve something already right there, you don't.
Right.
I earned this the
Yeah.
first time. Have you ever heard someone say, I earned this? You know darn well when they say that, they did not earn it.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
have to proclaim something that you actually deserve or earn. You just do it.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's how I
totally.
feel about that.
Absolutely. And what about one thing I thank my husband for almost on the daily for not having a dad bod. Like I literally thank him so much. And I keep myself in shape and I always have, and I think that's a level of, being a couple and having intimacy and really respecting each other and respecting your physical body and your health. But like I look around at these dads and they've just given up and I'm that's
Yeah.
and women do it too. I'm not saying that women don't do it too, but women seem to be a little more vain, at least in Orange County they are.
Oh,
Um,
Orange County. Yeah. Yeah.
right? But I see these men and they just kind of like give up and they don't really respect their health. And it's like, do you realize the level of intimacy that you can get to with your wife if you actually took care of your body and you cared about the way your health, if you cared about your health, right?
that would have to come into a space of outward focus. So an inward focus wouldn't care about what you just spoke about in regards to intimacy because it's all about them. When it
Right.
comes to having a dad bod and not, I've had two not dad bods that were if I you look at pictures, people think they're photoshopped because I was so out of shape. And I'll tell you, as a man, there's sometimes two things. They don't care, or we like to pretend that we are something we're not. Because I have a video of me like this
Yeah.
belly hanging out. And I was telling my wife in this picture that I had a six pack in 4 weeks. It was 3 years away, is what
Yeah.
happened. So I really believed it though. So we often believe that we look something different. And then most wives aren't going to come and say, hey, look, you look like trash. Or
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
love you. And
Yeah.
most friends I'm going to support myself around aren't going to tell me the same thing.
Yeah.
I've come to a whole nother space when it comes to because I lost the weight and gained it back, and then I lost it again. And my thought process on that is it is disrespectful to everyone who believes in me not to be the greatest version of myself possible. And so when I say I want to create a legacy, I want to change people's lives, and I'm going to go out there and do that. I'm not going to do it in a body that can't last 6 hours. I'm going to do it in a body that can last 40 hours, go on full speed. And if you need more, I'm going to take the kids too.
I
Like
love it.
it's not going to happen in my old body wouldn't I could not so I think Eric Thomas says something along the lines of create a body that can outlast the old you. Most people set these goals and the body that they have can is not even able to provide the action needed to succeed, and they fall short and they're just falling short. So when it
Right.
comes to my wife, like I tell my wife all the time, I was like, you let me walk around like that. She's like, I loved you anyways. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't love me. Look at those pictures, right?
Yeah.
And and now she's like, "Oh, you get to run around with your shirt off and this and that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I earned it." She's like, "Well,
Exactly.
man." And it feels good to do that. But I was running around with my shirt off before, and I'm like, "You guys let me outside like this?" One of the biggest triggers for me was I was working at. We saved a Boys and Girls Club for going from going under a couple
Amazing.
years back, and a little kid came up to me and was like, "I wish my dad was like you." And I thought to myself in that moment, I was like, I will never create a space where my kids will have to feel they can say that to another man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never.
Wow. That's powerful. That's really powerful.
The worst thing is if your kids and your wife had no filter and no expectation of what comes out, what
Yeah.
would they really say?
Right.
Most men need that. Like
Yeah.
I needed that. Hey, dad, you don't keep your promise and you're drunk on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You said you weren't going to drink till Friday. Hey, dad, you said you were going to take me to the park, but you're hungover. Hey, dad, you said you're going to do this, but you didn't. Hey, dad, who are these people at the house hanging out? When they, you know what
Yeah.
like
They're all watching. They're watching you.
I'm an adult. I'm in my me time. Like I wasn't put on this planet for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's how.
totally agree. Yeah. That's amazing. And that's that. I think there's a really good message in that. So thank you. I love that. Um, So let's talk about frequency and intensity. We touched a little bit on it, but all right. So you were talking about how you lost the weight and then you gained it back. Now I know a lot of people that do this for sure. I'm not one of them. I actually kind of have a baseline. I have 3 pounds that I play with, but
Right.
I've never been the type of person to gain 20 pounds, lose it, and gain 20 pounds back. Like that's not how I operate because I'm too disciplined. Like I start gaining weight and I'm like, okay, we're getting back in. Like I know what I need to
Time to go
do.
get the power bars.
Yeah, I know what I need to do to stay healthy, and I know what's going to make me feel like I'm walking my talk, right? Because
Right.
I promote this, living your best life. So, what would you say to someone who has been on this trajectory and kind of did the work and then slid back into these old habits? Like once you slid back in the old habits, what got you to be honest with yourself and say, I'm not doing this again?
So there's two spaces. So like one I like to use is sometimes women will lose a lot of weight really fast if they're going through a personal issue. So
Yeah,
the outside motivator is something that is so like if it's a divorce or a breakup or infidelity or insecurity, that outside motivator will drive them to do
yeah,
what they don't understand they're creating. And then what happens is the moment that that outside motivator disappears, I don't know why I'm not able to get the workout on it. It's and with women in pain, I've talked about this before. Men and women register pain different. In fact,
Mhm.
women register pain at a much higher threshold. No one gives them credit for that.
True.
So if you want to think we're macho, I got a cold. I thought it was the end of the world. My wife's walking around with a hysterectomy like
Yeah.
4 days later. Like two different levels. So women a lot of times are designed to be slightly pain adverse inside of a workout space. So if
Yep.
you don't have like that burning motivator of like my husband cheated on me,
Yep.
then sometimes you're like, well, I don't know how to get motivated to work out. And
Yep.
so finding the little tricks that get you there and then setting up and we'll go into frequency and intensity in a second. So sometimes the motivator, when the motivator is gone, we now have to develop a new space to realize these certain actions will lead to my end result. So have
Okay.
my end result. This is where I am. I'm honest with myself. 3 pounds, or 3 pounds, 6 pounds, 9 pounds, could
Yeah.
be 20 pounds. Be very honest with yourself and then set a milestone. I'm going to lose 3 pounds this week.
Yep.
Okay, how am I going to do that? Well, the average person says, what? Oh, you know what? I heard on a Goldyn show that you got to do keto, go to the gym 3 times a week, and da 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 da. Well, have you ever done a diet? No. Have you ever gone to the gym? Once. Like, have you ever run? Well, no. Like, so what happens is they just added a bunch of intensity to a frequency that's not established. Their frequency may be one. They might go to the gym once. They might have had a
Yep.
diet once, but they added all that. So then what happens is failure. You
Yep.
you added too much of the muscle. It's not able to move.
Yep.
I am big on is a frequency, establishing a baseline of frequency. So when I started losing my weight the second time, I was like, I would always run, get hurt, not be able to move, and I would be back in 2 weeks, and I was never going anywhere. So
Yeah.
I practiced two things when I did this: keeping my word to myself and doing my cardio. And I would get up, I would be on the treadmill by 4:30. I would press start and put it on a 3, which
Yeah.
is miles per hour. My commitment was I would walk on it until it turned off. I found out it was 65 minutes because there's a 5-minute cooldown. If for any reason I got off to go to the bathroom, there was an earthquake, somebody got shot, it doesn't matter what happens, I would have to then restart. I restarted a couple times.
Wow.
I found out two things. I lied about how far I walked, how often I walked. I normally didn't have a frequency in doing it. It was very simple to stay on the treadmill. And I did that for 7 days. I logged in over 3,000 miles
Wow.
mid journey before I missed a day on the
That's amazing.
treadmill.
That's
Now,
amazing.
yeah, and so now what happens, because people are like, "Look, you work out 3 times a day. You're sparring, you're training, you're running 8 miles, you're doing all these things. I wanna be just like you." I'm like, "Well, it starts on the treadmill." If you're not
Yeah.
gonna walk on a treadmill for a year straight, don't say you're gonna do professional athlete stuff, and people listening might not wanna be professional athlete. Although, and this is I love your energy shift because this is one of my things. If you wanna start indirectly using negative energy inside of that space to create positive results, is anytime you think negative about yourself, you do an action that feeds your end result. So my wife and a couple of girls I train, anytime they think bad about themselves, they have to do 10 squats right
Oh,
there, air squats. Yeah. Oh, I don't like the way I look. 10 squats. Guess what I heard? I heard from my last girl that she's done 1,000 squats since she started. She's
wow.
looking better and she doesn't think bad about herself as often, but she still does the squats.
That's actually a really great practice because I teach mind training, but that takes it to a whole other
Yeah,
level.
it's a physical space because like I used to look at myself and I don't like my arms. Oh,
Yeah.
well, okay, great. What are you doing about it? I
Yep.
don't like my marriage. Okay,
Yep.
great. What are you doing about it? How about every time you think about texting somebody that's not your wife, you text your wife? Let's see what happens there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
oh,
that.
yeah, every single time. You like anytime you think outside the box, guess what? Train your mind and make an action. Send the
Yeah.
action the other way. And you know what you'll start to do? You'll start to then reprogram your mind and your actions to either I don't want to do that every time, so you stop thinking it, or I really like doing it, and it changes the direction. So,
Right.
but that's creating the frequency. And now I have a frequency. And now, once I have an established frequency, you know what? Goldyn goes to the gym 5 days a week. She goes, she walks on the treadmill. You know what we're going to do this week? We're going to add leg press. Just leg press. You're going to do it every other day. And as
Okay.
you do leg press, you're not going to put any weight on. And
Okay.
well, the thing is I would rather you do that at a slow pace and 2 years from now you're on it than go all out for 90 days and end up like I ended up
Yep.
like
Yep.
my heart hurting because I was
Yep.
trying. I went to run up a street. Like
Yeah.
that's that you. We I would rather keep. And then long term wise, you will never fall lower than that. Your brain will, if you fall off, because we fall off, we're humans, we
Sure.
won't fall lower than that. It's then programmed and ingrained inside of us.
Yep. Completely. That's
Frequency,
really good advice. I like that.
I think I do. I use it for everything. Same with marriages
Yeah.
and personal development. Any space you have to create a frequency if you decide you want to go to a big space.
Yeah. Yep. You gotta level up that foundation, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we talked about foundation, me, you and I. I
Yep.
hate oh, no, I was on another podcast. We wanna go
Oh,
about foundation.
yeah,
So,
let's
if
talk
you have
about it.
any workers so everyone's always talking about, "Oh, you have to have the foundation." Well, have you ever built a house? Have you ever remodeled a house? Some
Well, my
well,
husband has.
so your husband would know. So you would know that if you tore the bathroom and the kitchen out, that's a very, very stressful time. So anytime you're remodeling who you are inside, that's a stressful time. The issue is a lot of people want to build a four-story building on a foundation that only holds one.
Yep.
And so to tear a foundation out, it takes a lot of time, a lot of pain, a lot of stress. You're talking about building, tearing out concrete, digging things out to build a bit. When I did what I did with blood, we tore it down to the base dirt of the found. There was no foundation left, and we poured new concrete and started building from there. So sometimes we think, oh, I'm going to just do a diet, and the diet's not the issue. It's keeping your word for the 6 months you said you were going to show up to the gym. Now
Yep.
it's Margarita Tuesday, and you're out here drinking margaritas. So when we talk about foundation, don't use the foundation you have has got you as far as it's going to go. Now
Yep.
we got to strip it down to nothing, tear the foundation out of there,
Yep.
and then start building from the top or
And
from.
so how do you do that? I mean, you're basically gonna just defy everything you've ever been. Is that what that means?
I think it's not defying everything you've ever been. For me, it was actually executing on everything I had let myself down on.
Mm,
So like
okay.
it's within us already.
Right.
Like being a boxer, this is real. Showing up and not giving up. That was in me, but although I would give up, I
Right.
wouldn't show up. So when I started showing up and not giving up and staying there and looking them in the eyes and going, doing the things that I knew I wasn't doing started catapulting me to that space that I always knew I should be there, but I was always letting myself down and then justifying.
And then as you do that, like as you keep kind of leveling up, then you start to gain the confidence of becoming that new person.
Maybe so this is another thing. Like sometimes people are on a hunt for confidence, and there's not sometimes. Like every time I get inside of a ring, I'm confident that I've put everything out. I'm not necessarily confident I'm gonna win
Yeah.
because I like there's a level of fear. So like in fact, even getting on show when I get on stage and when I talk to people before every one of my coach calls, I'm confident. Although I'm nervous, like I think maybe the definition of confidence, sometimes people think, oh, I'm not gonna be nervous. I'm like sometimes shaking. I'm like ready
Yeah.
to go. And
Yep.
so like if I'm looking for confidence, it's normally not a good thing. Because when I was confident, I've got the crap kicked out of me.
Right. We call that overconfident.
Oh, I was wow, I was my gift to myself, and I'm showing up to take the world on, and I was throwing up in a parking lot with a black eye and a broken nose. Like I know sometimes so I would rather go in feeling like, I don't know, and
On
I
a little
go,
bit of edge, right? Yeah, it's on a little bit of edge. Actually, I heard Betty White, who performed for so long, right? Like 70 years or something, or 80 years. She said every time she went on stage, she had that feeling of like that.
yes.
And I don't like to label it as anxiety more than I like to think of it as like excitement. This is passion, this is energy, this is life force. This is what we came here for. We came here to live this way, not be in the mundane every single day and just kind of going through the motions.
I love that. Now back on anxiety, I do like I love anxiety. Like what everyone thinks. So I'm very different in a lot of spaces. Pain, discomfort, anxiety. I feel like I am going to have to deal with them in my life. So why should I look at them as negative things as versus that they're there? So let me face it now. Like
Ah,
I have a lot of anxiety right now. So what am I going to do about it? Because when there's something that really hits, like someone passes away or there's an accident or because and I hate to say this, it's not being morbid, but this planet's coming for us.
yeah,
It's it's coming. There's time limits that we don't know. that are
Yeah.
established.
Yep.
And what if me working really hard in one space gets me a couple more days to do what I was called to do?
Yeah.
What if, like me, my body that I had before could not keep up with the demand that my family needed to get them to a safe new place. And therefore, I would have failed and they would be stuck in a place where there's shootings all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Would I rather go through discomfort? Like one of the things we don't talk about is like, or we haven't talked about is like pain will expose who a person really is every single time, especially men. We
Yeah.
love to get comfortable and preach something. Um, I practiced in that with with my freezer. Like I would get in and I would play with who I was in there, what works, what doesn't work when it comes to the coaching space. A lot of the things that are coached, a lot of things that are said, as soon as I throw someone in an ice bucket, all that stuff goes out the window. You see the real them. They'll come out in 5 minutes. I've said 5 minutes it'll come out. For me, it comes out. I'm like, that doesn't work. You know, don't visualize the pain. You know, let me throw you inside this ice bucket real quick. Let's talk about visualization techniques while you're inside the ice. Because you like it's
Yeah.
literally like, wow, okay, there's certain spaces that some of this stuff isn't working, so I must find something else.
That is so interesting because I feel like as a society as a whole, everyone's running from pain. Everyone's trying
Yeah.
to avoid the feelings that are painful. And that's why our society is in so much trouble with drugs and alcohol and addictions and all of that because people are trying to avoid pain. But if instead you embraced it, not
Mhm.
necessarily put yourself in painful situations all the time. The ice bath thing, I'm not quite ready for that
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
But but I agree with you that calling yourself to things that is going to up level your experience and create resilience in you, right, is a new level of showing yourself what you're capable of. And that's what your 8 miler is all about. Am I right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I even told you about this. So I call it my darkness. I feel that my personal opinion is we are alone. We are
Okay.
alone in our head right now. While who your listeners are listening, they are either agreeing or disagreeing in their head, whether they're in a crowd or not. We
Yep.
are alone. So that voice that's with us when we're alone will tell us, it'll lie to us, it'll gas us up, it'll make commitments, you know. And so grabbing control of that voice that we have when we're alone is often you often play with it inside of a space where you're pushing your limits or your boundaries. So with running 8 miles, when I'm told I need a full knee reconstruction, I got to 8 miles and my poor kids. So it's 4 miles from my house to Vegas Boulevard. We're way out kind of in the desert. I got
Okay.
there and I was like thinking about something David Goggins said and
Yeah.
thinking about something. And I looked to North Vegas and I'm like, if I start running that way, I wonder how far I can go before my body gives up. And understand I hadn't run farther than 6 miles at this time.
Wow.
By the time my wife calls me, I had 20 miles on the road and I was rolling to Bellagio with my shoe tore up and
Wow.
not done. And I was like, I can't believe that my body had all of that inside of it. The craziest thing was I was 7 miles in and quit and I started walking and I was going to call my wife. 7 miles.
Yep.
That's when my brain gave up. And I was
Yep.
walking, I was fighting with myself. I was fighting with myself. I'm not a runner. I'm not built to run. Trust
Yep.
me, I'm 40 years old. I turned 40. I did this right before my birthday. And I'm walking in and I'm like, you said you would run till your body gave up. Start running. And so I started running again and I had another 13 miles in my body. And I could have probably went farther if there wasn't so many crowds on the strip. It was dark. Like I had no water. Like I was drinking from hose bibs by these little gas stations all the way. Like, and I ran the whole time. And so
Wow.
like that and the only reason that my brain wrapped around that is because one time, this was 2 years ago, I heard David Goggins say, "If you flip a tractor tire a mile, it'll build something or unlock something in you." Well, that's
Hmm.
so much I had a tractor tire in the driveway.
Yeah.
I said, "Babe, do you think I could flip that thing a mile?" She's like, "Have you ever flipped it once?" I was like, well, no. So I go out there and she's like, well, flip it to the driveway and see.
Right.
Get some gloves. It's like 10 in the morning. I start flipping this tire. I get to the driveway. I'm going to flip it up the street. So I start flipping it up the street and I'm going and I set my goal. I'm going to get all the way there. It turned out when they found me, I had only gone half a mile and I told them I was coming home and I lied and I just kept flipping. I got to the top of this thing, flipped it across the street, cut up, bloody,
Oh,
black from head to toe, sat in the middle of this big old tractor tire and had a cry because I did something that my body, I was told, would never be able to do, and I just did it. And then my
wow.
brain said, "What else can you do?
Exactly. I
What
love
else
that. I
can
was thinking about David Goggins too. I'm glad you mentioned him because
you."
yeah,
Him screaming in my they make fun of me all the time. I have a reel out there where I feel like him screaming in my ear. And the thing that's beautiful about it is for me, it shows what the human body was capable of. That's one of the reasons I made the goal to become a professional boxer. I was like, if this man can do all of these things, I can become a professional boxer.
wow.
I
How
learned
cool is that? That's
it's
really cool.
it's cool.
Yeah,
My kids love it. My dad's a boxer.
yeah. I love it. I love it.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
he's super inspirational, and I love the idea of kinda taking something that somebody said and taking it with you and making it you basically make it yours. And when you can do that, people all the time say, "Oh, I hear your voice in my head all the time," because I listen to my podcast and I'll say things and it's like it makes that connection to a new neural pathway. So
yeah.
instead of the old neural pathways where you're like in a cycle of quitting and not doing what you say you're gonna do, you've created a new network and
Mhm.
that network says, "What else can I do?"
What else can I do?
And right?
It's
Love
crazy
it.
that you said take it with you because I did that with everything that I knew about personal development. So Les Brown, I love Les Brown.
Love Les
There
Brown.
was a quote, you'll know it. He's like, "When you get knocked down, try and land on your back because if you can look up, you can get up." And I was like, "Woo!" Until I got knocked down in my and I landed on my back. Boom. And I will tell you what, if you land on your back, the fight's over. You
Yeah,
will not get back up. And if you get hit hard enough to land on your back, through experience, I found that when you get knocked out, land on your face.
yeah,
You want to land on your face because if you land on your face, it'll wake you up. And if you get your hands and your knees under you, you might be able to get up to your crawl posture. You might be able to get your head up, and you might be able to get back on your feet before the fight's over. That's
wow.
real life application. And I love Les Brown. I'm not saying nothing.
I
Although
don't think he ever boxed. I think that's the problem. He never
so
boxed.
then we go into this space where there's theory and practice. So when me and my coaches are teaching, we are teaching from current practice, not practice that we had done in the past, because that's not current. Because
Yep,
everything's changed. Is if I will tell you right now, this is what I'm doing, and these are my results, and I'll train from there. I will say this is what I've done, and now you know, or I can say this is what I've heard, this
yep,
is what so and so says, and this is what they say. I haven't actually tried it myself.
yep.
Versus, oh, if you do X, Y, and Z because it sounds good to run your credit card, that's not. I do not operate from that space, and it takes the emotion out of it.
Yeah,
It will take the emotion out of it every single time. Like I would rather you make emotionless decision to move forward because you know it's going to be a battle
yeah.
versus you got pumped up, but oh man, you spent 20 grand, so you might as well stick in it.
So true. I think that happens so often. So I'm going to put up your Facebook or Instagram. Is Instagram a good place for people to find you? So here's Coach Luke's Instagram. This is a great way to get in touch with him. And his reels are great. He's really funny. I actually am really glad that you're on my feed now. So connect with Coach Luke there. And if you want to hear more about his coaching programs and how he is radically changing the world, I think. I really do.
I'm working on. Thank you for that. Working on
So let's have a little talk about obsession
okay.
because I'm somewhat obsessed and I think what people don't realize when you're in the space of doing something outside the realm of a job or the normal things to do to create income, you have to have a level of determination and obsession that overrides all the doubts, all the, obstacles that are going to get in your way. And obsession for me is it can be considered negative, but for me, it's about driving an energy force towards something that you feel passionate enough about that you're going to get results because you've worked so hard and there's no room for failure. Like failure is not an option, right? An obsession.
With my perspective on obsession, that for one, I you have to wrap your mind around the fact that I come from a space that there's no such thing as balance. So balance is sold a lot of times because it kind of alludes to comfort. There's
Yep.
nothing on this universe that you can show me, and I've done a lot of research that proves that there's balance in anything. Not even light, not in light night darkness. If you look in space, there's a lot more darkness than there is light. So when it comes to balance, there's no such thing as balance. So if I'm in a space of chasing balance, like I'm going to bring up this area to match this area to match this area, then I'm focusing on the bare minimums. I'm
Right.
focusing on the bare minimums because what it takes for me to become a professional boxer, if I applied that to becoming a great husband and I applied this to my spiritual or however, that type of work ethic will bring it up. So I always say take your weakest area, which maybe it's your health. Well, how
Yep.
much is your health worth to you? Is it worth obsessing over for the next 6 months? All you do is you know what? Goldyn's kind of weird. She started just only working on herself right now. Is it worth it to have the greatest body you've ever had?
Yes.
So that type of obsession, and I'll tell you what's crazy, when you're authentically obsessing over one spot, you indirectly will bring the rest of them up with it.
Yep. I agree
Now,
with
when
that.
I became a professional boxer, when we first got here, we piled everything into it. We witnessed something crazy. And man,
Yeah.
my son and I witnessed a carjacking, and I went home and I said, and he said, Dad, he said, we don't, I don't have my brother and sister don't have a future here, but I'll be strong. And I'm in his room right now, and I went home and I sat inside my bathroom with my wife, bathroom's biggest thing. I said, babe, why don't we liquidate everything, sell it all, throw it away, and move to Henderson? It's the safest place on the planet. I'll be a professional boxer. You be a housewife. And she said, let's do it. 2 weeks later, house on the market. 6 weeks later, we moved here homeless. I went straight into boxing. She said, go. I went crazy boxing. And by chasing my obsession, she went to the doctor and found out she was having cystic problems with inside of her female organ area. They
Yep.
said, you need to get pancreatic, ovarian and uterine cancer check right away. And that's how it started. And we didn't have a hospital where they could handle this where we were. They said
Yep.
if she would have worked for 2 more weeks, cis would have ripped her ovary off the wall and she would have bled to death.
Wow.
Fast forward to today, she's 0.02% chance, no cancer. She
Okay.
has no cancer. They did a full hysterectomy. And because I was obsessed and chased my dream, I saved my wife and my kid's mom. So
Wow.
like your obsession to do what you're called to do will positively impact and save people that you don't even know need to be saved.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about obsession.
That is absolutely amazing. I love that. And that's probably one of your coolest manifestation stories, right?
That was it. Sometimes you manifesting what you're called to manifest and what you're called to do will unlock. My wife she might not be here with us today. They said she
Yeah.
would might not be here with us today if I was stayed in a space of comfort, kind
Yep.
of holding on to the things that
Yep.
made me who I was.
Yeah. And I know what that feels like because we did the same thing and we, packed everything up and moved. It took us a lot longer to do it than you, but when we finally made the decision, it was 4 months where we actually like moved our entire lives to
Mm,
California with no house,
beautiful.
no job. And we had to become obsessed with survival at that point. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, and my husband has gotten obsessed with his remodeling business several times and we knew like that's what it takes for him to build abundance and to create the lifestyle that we really want. So it's my support in that. Your wife has to come
Yeah.
rise up to meet you and support you. And um, I love what that unlocked for both of us, like
Right.
experientially to walk through and say, I'm going to let go of everything I ever knew. It was like the first 42 years of my life. I'm going to let
Right.
that go and I'm going to move somewhere and create something totally different because my heart is calling me to do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love
Right?
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
good
That's
stuff.
why I'm on this call. I love that type of action.
And I love all the goodness that came to you guys because you did that, because you didn't make excuses, because you didn't live in fear. And you said, we have to do this for our family. So many good things came from it. Your whole life changed.
I'll say this. I said I made excuses for 39 years and the fear is always there.
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
there.
Always. Yeah.
Look into the fear. I think Jung talks about finding the dark, like looking into the darkness, and you'll find the thing that you need is right there. So, like
Totally.
in the fear, you find out it's not as scary as you thought. I've
Yeah.
been talking about moving my family for 10 years, and I wouldn't do it because I was scared. The fear was driving homeless, and my best friend is the one who let us stay in her house. And I love her dearly. Driving homeless to another state after
Yeah.
you everything that made you who you were,
Yes.
that's the scariest thing on the planet
Ever.
a
Yes.
professional boxer in a coaching company. And you're
What?
like, dude, oh, he's off his rocker, and
Wow.
now we're here. Now I'm here with you, having a
That's
great.
incredible. It's, I mean, you are such a serious inspiration. And I feel like I'm excited to see what the future brings for us, for the messages that we're sending, and for helping people, to become inspired to live the life that they absolutely
I'm excited.
love, right? That they love, that they're passionate about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And I would
Uh,
say if you have a listener that's out there that like they're facing something right now where they're like they don't know, go all in. Like
yeah.
like I'm big on burning the bridges and
Do
throwing
it.
grenades on my
Do
way.
it. Us too.
Do it. Yeah, go
Us
all
too.
the way. Don't make sure there's no reason to look back. The fire's too big and go after what you're called for.
Oh, we're going to end on that. That was so good. Burn the bridges. Go do it. Coach Luke, thank you so much for being with me. Connect with him. He's amazing. You want him in your life, in your space. And that's all we have for today.
I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Peace out, people.
Bye.
Bye.